Last week, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh ripped up the supply and confidence agreement his party had with the Liberals. And while this doesn't mean there will be an automatic election, Mr. Singh did admit that an election is more likely as his party will now vote on legislation on a vote-by-vote basis. All of this while the Liberal caucus meets in BC this week to discuss the path forward for their party, and while there are growing calls for Justin Trudeau to step aside. Joining us now to discuss the end of the agreement between the Liberals and the NDP is Andrew Perez from Perez Strategies. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be on the show.
Now, Mr. Trudeau called the move playing politics, while Pierre Poilievre called it a stunt. What do you make of the end of the deal from the NDP?
Yeah, it really is a purely political move. This is an agreement that's been in place for 2.5 years. We were in a very different situation economically and even geopolitically 2.5 years ago when this agreement was struck. And the Liberals and the NDP at that time in March 2022 were really looking for stability. A lot has changed since then. The Liberals have become deeply unpopular, really facing an 18 to 20 point gap in public opinion for the past year and a half. And so I think Jagmeet Singh and his strategists in the NDP have concluded that this agreement is weighing them down politically. They've been seen to be in bed, for lack of a better term, with this government, and they want to create some distance with the government, especially as we approach an election in the next year, could be in a matter of months now. So this is really a political decision. In the immediate term, I don't think it changes anything. I think the chances of an election in the lead up to Christmas are slim to none. But I think once we get into early spring 2025, all bets will be off. And that's when things will get really interesting for political observers, because every money bill, budget, these will all be confidence measures, and the opposition could come together at any time and put forward a vote of non-confidence in the government.
Now, on the topic of creating some distance, do you think that the end of the deal will put more pressure on Mr. Trudeau to step aside?
I actually think the opposite. I actually think that this unexpected development actually strengthens Mr. Trudeau's hold on the party leadership. And I say that because the supply and confidence agreement provided the Liberals with stability. We thought that there would not be an election until the fall of 2025. And I think that arrangement gave room for Trudeau to perhaps resign and allow for a leadership race within the Liberal Party without having to worry about the government being defeated in the House of Commons because it had the support of the NDP. With that agreement gone now, we could be plunged into an election at any time. As I say, I don't think it's likely in the immediate term, but it could become more likely as the months go on. And so I think Mr. Trudeau can reasonably say, given the instability of the minority parliament that we're in, that he has to stay, and his backers will probably be advancing those arguments. So maybe this actually helps Mr. Trudeau in an ironic way.
Now, do you think the NDP will still continue to support the Liberals just without all of the bells and whistles, I guess, that come with it?
Yes, I think at the end of the day, the NDP have no money, no candidates. They're languishing in the polls at about 18%, which is an historically low number for the NDP, particularly when you take into consideration how poorly the Liberals are doing. When you look at history, and even in the recent past, when Liberal parties struggle at the federal level, the NDP picks up support, especially from left-leaning Liberals who move over to the NDP. That's not happening. And so the NDP is, like the Liberal Party, in a bit of a state of a crisis. And so I think they will, on a piece-by-piece basis, decide whether they will support this government. And I think that's how they'll move forward.
And what about the Bloc's potential to support the Liberals? Do you think that this will go anywhere?
I think the Bloc are a potential supporter of this government. If you look at history, the Bloc Québécois have always been very clear about their role and their mandate, and that's to support legislation and policies that benefit from Quebec. That's the only lens in which they look at policy in federal politics. They are, by their very nature, a nationalist party only representing Quebec. And so I think the Liberals will have to work collaboratively with the Bloc. The Bloc will be looking for policies and legislation that advance their cause. And so I think there is potential there for the Liberals to partner with the Bloc. If the NDP decide they're not going to support the government anymore, this government could still stay afloat through support from the Bloc.
Now, we do just have under 30 seconds here, but you've written that Mr. Trudeau could prorogue Parliament. Can you walk us through why you think that could help the Liberals?
It would be a Hail Mary pass and a high risk gambit. But what it would allow is it would allow Mr. Trudeau to put pause on Parliament, announce his resignation, remain Prime Minister as a leadership race takes place,